Welcome to the 5-7 podcast. I'm your host, Pri, and today we're going to be talking about censorship, specifically Facebook censorship. My sources are Fox News, Vox.com, electronicfrontierfoundation.com, and there's been a lot that's been going on with Facebook. Obviously, they've been, the target for some what they perceive as Russian meddling into the election in 2016. And, I just wish that we can kind of get past it, because it shouldn't have really come to that. But anyways, I digress. So I'm going to read a couple articles here and we're going to talk about it. Facebook booted a hodgepodge of extremist figures recently, inflaming a faction on the right that is challenging the prevailing legal consensus on what is and isn't protected speech on digital platforms. Some conservatives argue that Facebook is unfairly targeting conservative voices or voices that seemingly put conservative ideas like InfoWars' Alex Jones and a few politicians like Republican Senators Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley are questioning whether it's even legal for Facebook to do this. Facebook says it's not targeting the right, but rather responding to a broad public push demanding that it crack down on extremism and misinformation, and that it has specific legal protections to do so. Now, I'm going to break away from the article for a second. Facebook should just be a place where, it's not a place where you get your news. It's, if you want to get your news from somewhere, go to Reuters and get your news from there, because they are a legitimate source for news. Nobody should be getting their news from Facebook in the first place, and Facebook shouldn't be, trying to moonlight as a news company. But I'll keep going. Behind the debate is a bigger question about what social media companies are and therefore to what extent they can moderate content. The prevailing legal consensus among scholars, the courts, tech companies, and the lawmakers who wrote the relevant law is that Facebook is well within its rights to exclude users as it has. This camp sees the challenge from a handful of voices on the right, like Cruz, as politically, not legally motivated. For its part, Facebook is relying on Section 230 for legal protections, but trying to cast itself as a place that welcomes all viewpoints, despite some moderation, as CEO Mark Zuckerberg said on Capitol Hill hearing earlier this year. Now, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act says that no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. In other words, online intermediaries that host or republish speech are protected against a range of laws that might otherwise be used to hold them legally responsible for what others say and do. The result of all this is that Facebook is standing in the middle of a debate that's being shaped by politics and public relations more than by the law that protected the growth of sites like Facebook in the first place. The House Facebook ban on extremist users exploded online. Facebook announced last Thursday that the platform was banning a grab bag of users, failed White House Nationalist House candidate Paul Nehlen, pundit Milo Yiannopoulos, right-leaning YouTube personality Paul Joseph Watson, and alt-right political activist Laura Loomer, Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan, and Alex Jones and his InfoWars media outlet. In a statement, Facebook said, "We've always banned individuals or organizations that promote or engage in violence and hate, regardless of ideology. The process for evaluating potential violators is extensive, and it is what led us to our decision to remove these accounts today. But that's not how some conservatives and right-leaning observers have interpreted Facebook's decision. And they do have some high-profile support for their position, at least in part. Last year, technology reporter Charlie Warzel, then at BuzzFeed News, called Facebook's decision-making vague content rules and arbitrary enforcement regarding bad actors on its platform. combined with recent Twitter suspensions of right-leaning figures like actor James Woods and ongoing drama over alleged shadow banning of conservative social media users, Facebook's decision last week just added to the sense among some of the right that social media companies unfairly treat right-wing users. It's debatable. That's prompted outrage from not just the media figures and outlets who have been banned or suspended, but prominent conservative politicians as well, including President Trump, Newt Gingrich, and Senator Ted Cruz. Facebook and other social media companies have been careful to represent themselves as platforms, not publishers, though Facebook is one of the biggest sources of news media for Americans and has encouraged media companies to produce content specifically for Facebook. Zuckerberg has assiduously argued that it is just a platform that hosts users' content. So what's it going to be? His company is saying one thing and he's saying another, This matters because being treated as a publisher like Vox, as a publisher of this article, opens up websites to lawsuits over what they've chosen to put out into the world. Whereas the current legal consensus is that platforms have protections that allow them to moderate the content users put on the sites without being legally responsible for it. But there's a big problem with how this dichotomy is being interpreted by lay people and lawmakers alike. The difference in legal responsibility for content isn't between platform and publisher, but between sources of content, whether the content is created by a user of Facebook or by Facebook itself. But how far those protections and the ability to moderate the content go is under debate. Now here's where I think the main problem is. And what the main problem is that I think it comes down to people. People are taking what they see and they're not even investigating it at all. They see something that they read on Facebook and they take it as 100% fact, and they're like, oh, this is what's going on, and that's not necessarily the case. Like I said, Facebook is supposed to be a place for you to be able to message your loved ones, your friends, people that you don't see all the time, people who live in other countries or friends who live in other countries or what have you. It's not meant to be a reliable media source for you to get news. And I think that's what people need to understand. And maybe do a little, educate yourself a little bit on between what you think is fake news and what is real news, and take it from there, because there are sometimes you read something and you're like, oh, this is completely fake. And there's other times where you're like, I don't really know. And if you're not really sure on what you're reading, I would definitely investigate it and look into it. Now, CrossFit, the company CrossFit, they are a fitness. It's a type of fitness and exercise that you can do, but they're also like a company that hosts of CrossFit games, and so they're it's kind of like two things in one. And they're very, very popular, and they've got some really great workouts that are really smoke you. And I love their the type of workouts that they put out there. I just don't think that they really push for a proper form in the exercises, but that's another discussion, for another time. But they removed themselves from Facebook and Instagram. And I'm going to read an article that was posted by them, and why they did it. And I agree with them 110%. Here we go. CrossFit, the branded workout regimen, accused Facebook of being utopian socialist and left the platform after the social network deleted a group dedicated to a diet. The move to quit both Facebook and Instagram came in the wake of the decision to delete, without warning or explanation, the Banting 7-day meal plan, a group that advocated a diet aimed at eating food that is as close to its natural state as possible, free from processing, additives, preservatives, and sugar. The group's suspension was later overturned, but CrossFit issued a lengthy statement announcing the end of their presence on the platform. All activity on CrossFit Inc.'s Facebook and Instagram accounts was suspended as of May 22, 2019, as CrossFit investigates the circumstance pertaining to Facebook's deletion of the Banting 7-day meal plan and other well-known public complaints about the social media company that may adversely impact the security and privacy of our global CrossFit community, the statement read. The company provided 8 publicly sourced complaints as the reasons for quitting. Facebook collects and aggregates user information and shares it with state and federal authorities, as well as security organizations from other countries, the first reason read. Facebook collaborates with government security agencies on massive citizen surveillance programs such as PRISM, CrossFit said in the second reason. Facebook censors and removes user accounts based on unknown criteria and at the request of third parties, including government and foreign government agencies, it continued. Facebook collects, aggregates, and sells user information as a matter of business. Its business model allows governments and businesses alike to use its algorithmically conjured advertising categories as sophisticated data mining and surveillance tools. The company then added that Facebook's news feeds are censored and crafted to reflect the political leanings of Facebook's utopian socialist while remaining vulnerable to misinformation campaigns designed to stir up violence and prejudice. The statement noted that CrossFit is a voluntary user of and contributor to this marketplace, can and must remove itself from this particular manifestation of the public square when it becomes clear that such responsibilities are betrayed or reneged upon to the detriment of our community. Common decency demands that we do so, as do our convictions regarding fitness, health, and nutrition, which sit at the heart of CrossFit's identity and prescription, it added. Now, me personally, I have had an issue with Facebook. I was trying to run an ad for a podcast that I did on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Green New Deal. And I tried to run the ad, and it told me that I was rejected, and that I would need to submit my driver's license. And that just sounded pretty weird to me. Like, why would I need to submit my driver's license to Facebook just to run an ad? And they wouldn't let me do it, and I refused to send in my driver's license. They said that there needed to be some kind of verification of who I was. I don't know, exactly why that matters. I mean, I've had a Facebook account for over 10 years, and now it's a problem that I want to post an ad. So yeah, sure, I get it. They're trying to. They're trying to cover their tails for the whole misinformation thing that's been going on Facebook, and it's been going on for a very long time. And with the 2016 presidential election, it had a lot of bad press for them, and they had a lot of issues with it. And I think that they need to realize that they can't be the all be all of media, or they need to take a look in the mirror and see exactly what they are. And one thing that I want to bring up is that why does any social media platform believe that they can censor people on what they're saying? Because, okay, well, on one hand, it's their company and they can run it a certain way, or however they want. Sure, I get that. But if you're saying that you're a meeting place and you believe in free speech, how can you take away the ability for free speech on your platform? Or how can you say, you know what, I'm not going to let these politicians, talk or allow them onto the site, but I let, other left-wing radicals on. A good example is that, Jim Carrey, he's always, he has these art things that he draws. and I think Sarah Huckabee Sanders is one of his favorites, and they're pretty crazy, and they're, in a way, in some way, they're kind of disturbing, but either way, I kind of get a kick out of them. But he puts them out there, and he recently had one of a specific person laying there in their own vomit, but these are allowed. These pictures are allowed to be on Instagram. They're allowed to be on Facebook, but you can't have right-wing people, like InfoWars, be out there and putting their information out there. Now, it's not that I am picking one side or another. What I am picking is free speech, and everybody should be able to express themselves in any way that they see fit. Now, there are people that, like say white supremacists, that a lot of people don't agree with what they're doing. That's a good example when you want to say, hey, maybe we should limit what they can say and what they can do, because in my opinion, it would be for the greater good. But once you start regulating people and telling them what they can and can't say, you start setting a precedent. And when you start setting a precedent of what people can and can't say, that is only going to snowball into you can't say anything bad about a certain individual, or you can't say, you won't be able to have free speech, and that's the issue that I have. So, guys, get at me on Facebook, get at me on Instagram. I'm curious to see what you have to say. I want to hear what everybody has to say about the censorship on what Facebook is trying to do, what they're trying to do on Instagram. And V4CR, Craig the Sunman Sawyer, he's had his Instagram deleted, I think 3 times now. And what his company does is, I support them. They are trying to end child trafficking, and I'm not sure why they would want to, suppress this guy, but he's trying to do a good thing out there. And that's just another example of them trying them trying to decide who gets to be on and talk and who doesn't. So that's all I got for you tonight, guys. I really want to thank everybody who's listening to the podcast. I really appreciate your support. People who are messaging me on Instagram, I'm very appreciative of your feedback and your time and listening to the podcast, and all my listeners out there, the Wolfpack. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Check me out on Instagram, 57 Podcast. There's also a group I call the Wolfpack on there, where we can have conversation if you like. If you want to post something on there and start a conversation, you can. And I'm also, hopefully we don't get regulated. And I'm also on Instagram, 57 Podcast, Twitter, 57 Podcast. Send me a message or email if you like at mjp@57podcast.com. And that's all I got for you tonight, guys. Take care of yourselves. And this is Pre out.